So you've already worked hard to learn commas, dashes, colons, and even semicolons, but you've been neglecting this poor little guy right here, the apostrophe. There are only a couple of rules for apostrophes, but the details for those rules can get quite tricky. Let's go through those details so you know exactly where apostrophes should and should not go on the SAT. The first thing that apostrophes can do is show possession. And let's look at some examples here because within this, there's actually a lot of detailed rules that we need to go over. We'll start with singular nouns. So your basic, normal singular noun, all you're gonna do is put an apostrophe and then an S. So if Juliana has a cat, we could say Juliana's cat is really mean. But for these weirder ones that are singular, but they actually end in an S, like the name James, it's one person, James, but his name happens to end in an S. In these cases, we have two options. We can either put an apostrophe after the S, or we can put an apostrophe and then an additional S. When we say this out loud, it sounds the same. We would say James's cat is very sweet. So a lot of my students have gotten confused about why we would just have an apostrophe there, but that is certainly an option. So keep that in mind. Moving on to plural subjects, we've got our normal, which in this case does end in S. It's normal for this to end in S. So we could say the cat's tails are so fluffy. And because it ends in an S, we basically do the same thing that we would do with the weird singular. We add an apostrophe after the S. Keep in mind though, we do not have the option of adding that additional apostrophe S for plural endings. It's just an apostrophe at the end of the word. So the sentence here means there were many cats, all of their tails are fluffy. Now there's weird ones. If a plural noun does not end in an S, it is weird. The technical term for this is irregular for all my fancy pants students out there. You know who you are. And for those irregular plural nouns, we're gonna do the same thing that we would do for singular nouns. Just an apostrophe, and then we add an S. So since children is already plural, we could say the children's cats have no right to eat my dinner, right? More than one child is children. Now there's one more thing to consider. What if we have a plural subject, but it indicates two individuals? For example, if we had Maria and Omar, what do we do with apostrophes? So here it says, Maria's and Omar's cats are both beautiful. Now notice it says individual possession. This means Maria has a cat and Omar has a cat, and both cats are beautiful. In this case, we want to show possession for Maria and for Omar, right? But if we have a shared possession, Robert and Natalie's cat is ugly. There's one cat that belongs to both Robert and Natalie. We only need to show possession on the last noun in the list. So here we only have two people. If you had 10 people, we would list all of them. The apostrophe would just go on the last noun in that list. And that covers all of the possession that you're going to need to worry about on the SAT. Of course, we also have to keep in mind that apostrophes have a second thing they do, which is to form contractions. This is bringing two words together into one. And the way that they do this is by sticking themselves in the middle of the new word to replace any letters that we lost. So you can see I plus am is I'm, right? The apostrophe goes right in the middle there. It replaces the A that we lost. We can see this in a lot of common contractions. It can work for proper nouns. So like, even though we could have dad's possessive, we can also do the same thing to say dad is. Dad is would also be dad's. So the only difference is context. If we see dad's going to rescue the cats, we know it's dad is because dad can't possess a verb, right? Dad can't possess going, but it looks the same. So that can be a little bit confusing, which is why I bring it up. And then there's, countless contractions that you're probably familiar with. So I won't go into them. And those are the only two rules for apostrophes, but I do want to consider one more thing, which is pronouns. And I know that we're getting outside of punctuation at this point, but it's important because these pronouns end up getting involved with punctuation and sometimes confusing us. So I'll show you what I mean. It's versus its. If possession is usually shown with an apostrophe. What's going on here? Which one of these means it's possessive? And if you want to take a guess, go for it. But it's with an apostrophe is going to be it is. It's without an apostrophe is actually possessive. So this kind of breaks the rule. And with these pronouns, just remember the contraction is the one that takes the apostrophe. If they're battling it out and one of them gets to have the apostrophe, it's the contraction that takes it. There, and there. There's going to be location. There with an EIR is going to be our possessive. And again, we follow that rule that the contraction takes the apostrophe. So they are, there is going to be they are, and it takes the apostrophe. Whose versus whose, you should be able to guess because of that rule I told you, which one's going to take the apostrophe. That's right, it's going to be the contraction, who is, and then whose without an apostrophe is possessive. So those are all the rules for you. And I know we worked quickly through that, so definitely come back to the beginning of the video, use the timestamps, and check these rules out again if you need to reference them as we go through these practice problems. All right, our first example here is rated as an easy one, so take a look, pause the video, try it on your own first, but let's talk about it. For apostrophe-based questions, I still put them in the same category as other punctuation questions. You can usually get away with just reading the sentence with the underlined portion, but every once in a while you might need context to check whether something's supposed to be plural or singular. So here we have, due to the moon's gravitational pull. All right, and right there, I know gravitational pull belongs to the moon. I know there's only one moon. I could also read this first sentence, Earth is not a perfect sphere. So I know it's talking about our moon, of which there's only one. So it would be singular possessive, which should just be an apostrophe S, which is A. And when you're not feeling super confident, definitely eliminate answers before you choose an answer. I just was 100% sure that was the answer, so we're good. And I've actually got a bonus tip for you, which is to boop that like button for me. All right, let's get things a little bit more challenging here with a medium question. This one is one big long sentence, so I'll just start from the beginning. Slam poet Acevedo's debut novel, The Poet X, winner of the 2018 National Book Award for Young People's Literature. And just to kind of simplify things, I'd probably ignore this big ol' comma sandwich here. I might even say this novel, or better yet, Poet X. Poet X is composed of poems putatively written by the novel's protagonist, 15-year-old. Okay, and then I would also ignore this because this is extra information. So all we're focusing on are the poems possessive? Because I'm seeing in the answer choices we have options to make the poems possessive. We have the word putatively, which is not a noun. You cannot possess an adverb. So I can get rid of B and C for that reason. And then the novel's protagonist. Does the protagonist belong to the novel? Yes, every novel has one protagonist usually. So it is that novel's protagonist. Do we have more than one novel? No, we know it's Poet X, this one novel. So we need singular, possessive, A. Let's do another medium one here. Again, pause it, try it on your own first, but here we go. So this one, because we're dealing with pronouns, and I can see we've got options between its versus their, I am going to read the first sentence because we need to know what the pronoun is referring to. So we have this poet's star quilt poems. So star quilt poems is the main subject of that first sentence. Offer an unusually open-ended reading experience with their 8 panels of text stitched together, I don't care about the rest. It is referring to those poems, which is plural, which is why I said there out loud. So we know it's not B, we know it's not D. Is it possessive or is it they are? With they are 8 panels, reading it out loud makes it pretty clear. It has to be possessive. And yeah, they do possess these panels if, these panels are a part of them. So it would be A, their, possessive. All right, these next couple of questions here, you are not going to be able to find in College Board's question bank. You will be able to find them in my new grammar and punctuation online course that I'm working on. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video, but for now, pause the video and try this question on your own first. I'm already seeing some pretty long answer choices, so I'm thinking context might be good to know here. I'm going to start from the beginning. We get at the entrance of the treacherous dungeon, the adventurers pause to consider their options. The group's fate rested on their, or the group's fate rested on its, chosen path through the labyrinth, and we can go ahead and stop there, ignore the rest of this stuff. And as I consider, I think I will also ignore that first sentence. Does the fate belong to the group or the groups? Yes, so it's going to be possessive, so definitely not B. And do we have more than one group? Well, it says the adventurers. We can infer that the adventurers are, in this one group together. So it's going to be singular possessive. So we'll get rid of A. And then it looks like we're dealing with its, which might throw some of you off because if you think of a group, it has more than one person in it, right? However, a group is a singular unit. So we do want singular its, and then chosen path. Does the chosen path belong to the group? Yes. So we'd want the possessive, no apostrophe, C as our answer here. All right, last question. Try it on your own first. Jim and Lucas bought a house together. I think it's crazy because they've only known each other for 6 weeks and from work, mind you. That said, Jim's and Lucas, the house is amazing and I hope it works out for them. Okay, so do you remember the rule that we talked about for these types of questions? First of all, do we have any options where they're not possessive? No, they're all showing some sort of possession. And yeah, it's their house, right? We know that. So what is the rule here? Well, they own the house together. So we only need possession on the last noun in the list, Jim and Lucas's B. Now, obviously, apostrophes are just one little part of the grammar and punctuation type questions that you're going to encounter on the SAT. You need to know how to deal with all of them. And I'm actually working on an SAT grammar and punctuation course right now. And here's the crazy thing that I'm doing. I'm going to give it away for free to the first 50 students to join my Discord. And my Discord is also free. The Discord is designed to be a community of SAT test takers just like you, who can help each other and support each other through the test taking and test prep process. So you're gonna get benefits from joining the group, even if you don't end up being one of the first people to join. Anyway, I hope to see you in the Discord, but if you're looking to get some more practice in right now, go ahead and check out this video right here for 5 tips on improving your English score.